It's about 7 AM. I'm up ridiculously early for work, as usual. I've got about 10 minutes before I have to set off for the train, so I'm working on the book. 2011 is the year of the book because I'm writing an author volume for Facet Publishing, probably called Marketing Modern Libraries, and it'll be practical tools and techniques for marketing academic libraries, public libraries, special libraries, archives, probably a bit of school libraries in there as well. It's something I'm doing in my own time, so I have to take every opportunity I can get to do some work on it. This morning, I'm reading this book, Strategic Marketing Plans That Really Work. I don't know how the webcam works, obviously, for public libraries by Terry Kendrick. Terry Kendrick is the guru of library marketing. He's an absolute legend in the field, and he's very kindly agreed to be the subject of a case study for the chapter on strategy. So I've read his book once already. I'm going through it with a fine-tooth comb to try and make sure I've got lots of interesting and pertinent questions to ask him when we do come to talk for the case study. I'm making the notes in Evernote, which is what I'm doing most of the stuff to do with the book in, because it's very handy. It's got a basic word processor, which is fine for my needs, and when I've finished the notes I press sync and they appear on my laptop, on my work PC, on my phone, and that's absolutely invaluable to pick up wherever I am, whatever I'm doing. I can carry on working on the book.
If you are leaving the train, please make sure you take all your personal belongings with you.
I work on something called the LifeShare project, which is a JISC-funded collaboration between the University Libraries of Leeds, York and Sheffield. And it looks at digitisation, preservation, working in a consortium. So what I'm doing today is working on writing up the Leeds case study, which was about comparing physical conservation and digital preservation as a long-term strategy to look after our books. So I wanted to touch on it briefly here because it's a kind of a universal issue, and it's relevant whether or not you work in digitisation, even whether or not you work in libraries, because there is all this kind of, our cultural heritage is out on our open shelves, and many of the books are deteriorating. There are unique volumes which are falling to bits, particularly those printed on acid paper. So what do we do about it? Do we try and physically conserve them, or do we produce like an electronic surrogate? And actually, which is cheaper over time for the institution? So basically it's kind of by India a library by the numbers. So I've got the information about how many people tweeted, how many tweets they tweeted, how many people donated, what the most common donation was, and I haven't actually got the final figure yet, so eventually this section here will contain the final sum that we've raised. So if you were involved in this in any way, if you tweeted a link, if you told your friends about it, if you told colleagues about it, if you contributed any money, thank you so much. It's been an incredibly successful campaign. It is a living, breathing testament to what you can achieve with social media and collaboration. It's just absolutely amazing, and literally libraries will now be built that didn't previously exist thanks to this campaign. So cheers very much to Jennifer for pointing out the fact that this could be done in the first place, to Andromeda for actually having the idea to try and crowdsource the cash, and to everyone who actually made it happen. Absolutely brilliant. I think we can all agree that we're heartily sick of the debate about library stereotypes. No one wants to talk about them or hear about them because it's boring. However, I've always argued that it's still important because the way that we're perceived affects our ability to do, particularly as a lot of our job is to do with helping people find information, and information is increasingly available on more and more platforms that are kind of technological platforms. It's Web 2 stuff, social media stuff. It needs a degree of technical expertise to get the most out of a lot of the information platforms available, and if people think that we're stuck in the dark ages and just go around shushing and wearing buns, then they're not going to come to us for help with that technology. That's a bad thing. It means that libraries aren't going to be as used as much, and so we become a softer target for funding cuts and the like. So I was very pleased today that Stephen's Lighthouse, excellent blog which contains about 1 million links a day, linked to a new report from the OCLC about library perceptions. And I remember the last one from 2005, 2006 I think it was kind of influential on the way that I thought about libraries and stuff that I'm interested in. So I was really interested in this new one. It's a big report, I haven't finished reading it, but there's a kind of thing that stands out immediately. I'll show you what it is. So, I don't know how well you can see that, probably can't see it, I'll get it into Word. So what it says is, positive librarian perceptions impact library funding. The value of the librarian grew even stronger in 2010. This is good for funding. A high correlation exists between funding support for public libraries and positive librarian perceptions. So for me, that's proof, if proof were needed, that it's really important that we continue to work on the whole problem of the librarian stereotype and overcoming the fact that people's perceptions are actually several years behind the reality of what we do and how we do it, where we do it, and the tools that we use. I'm really pleased that the OCLC is suggesting that the librarian brand has been strong in 2010. Hopefully we can build on that for 2011. Training session for the University of Sheffield. I'm going to go to their Special Collections department and talk about how to digitise audio and visual materials. So I'm using a PowerPoint presentation to kind of introduce the whole subject. It's going to have a handout with some sort of boring information on that I don't want to talk about too much in the presentation. And then there's going to be a hands-on session with the reel-to-reel player, tape player, video player, and the computer and all the kind of software and hardware that interfaces between all that. So the slides are what I'm doing now. I was once told on a PowerPoint course, which I went on 3 or 4 years ago, that if you use any of the kind of animations that drop the bullet points in one at a time or anything like that, it lulls the brain of the watcher into a kind of non-receptive state because they become so spoon-fed that they stop thinking. So I try and avoid animations wherever possible, but there is one that I absolutely can't resist, especially when I've got a picture of a computer. I like to have the words typed up on the computer so as they appear. So this is what this one looks like. Look at that. I particularly like the fact that it's red and blue, which is what the LiveShare logo is in the corner. There you go. There is another thing that's worth noting about this deck. I'll just scroll down here. Converter software. You can download conversion software. There's a free open source one there at the top. but I find online-convert.com to be absolutely brilliant. It's an invaluable tool. There's so many times where you're stuck until you can convert a file, and this does it instantly. It doesn't email you them, it just makes them available online. It's really good. So check that out. If you ever need to analyse any kind of sound or video files, download Media Info. It's free, open source, kind of instant tool which will give you loads of useful information. If you want to produce technical metadata, it's very good for that. But if you just want to know how long a file is, what format it is, and all that kind of stuff, you can just click on it, drag it into Media Info, and it'll tell you what to do. So a couple of useful things there. Final thing I want to show you, it's another little LibDay 6 exclusive, a preview of the digitisation toolkit which LifeShare is producing, along with Skills at Library, which is the kind of training arm of the Leeds University Library who are making it for us. And we think this will be one of the most important legacies of the project. So the idea is that it takes you by the hand and guides you through every stage of a digitisation project, from planning, the actual digitisation, the storage, and making it available. We've tried to make things as visual and as interactive as possible. So for example, there is a lot of textual information, but we've tried to make it a little bit more interesting than your average slide. So there's rollovers and various bits of information. You can easily jump to the other relevant sections of the bit that you're in. And then there's the interactive side of things. So this morning I've been trying to work out questions for a kind of a Q&A for a copyright and IPR section where I'm going to be filmed talking about various things that I've done to do with one of the projects. So this is the more interactive section. There's kind of videos and stuff involved here, and then there is a over to you section. So this particular example of the learning tool, it's for the planning your workflow section. So this is something called a dragster. All the stuff down the right are stages which might be relevant to your digitisation project. The idea is that this helps you plan what you're doing. So for example, assess condition of the materials might be at the plan stage, digitise materials might be at the get stage, save the digital materials be at the save stage. If there is something that you want to do which isn't down this right hand side, then you can just type it in. So if we type in launch party, add that and it appears there, and then you can drag it into position, and you can do this as many times as you want, and at the end you can print it too. So hopefully this should be a very useful thing. Stay tuned to the LifeShare project blog, and when this goes live you'll hear about it straight away. Right, I'm now editing the video you just seen, and I've got far too much footage. I've got more than I know what to do with. I'm going to cut loads of stuff out. So you'll just have to imagine that I said loads of really insightful and intelligent stuff, but didn't have time to put it in. Thank you very much for watching it.